sitting there wondering what this 465 idiots are going to finally come up with. And I think the best thing for them to do is, A, get on a boat, go to the Falkland Islands and stay there. Get the hell out of the way. They won't leave, so get out of the way. That's their two choices.
No, I agree with you that Congress is a part of the problem. It is, and you know, the administration, I mean, our government, basically our federal government is failing us right now. I mean, congressional approval rating is like below 10%.
Used car salesmen are rated.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? These are complex issues that are facing our country. I mean, you can't solve them in sound bites. They're very complex. But this is about the future of our country. And we are at a threshold. From my perspective, I think we're at a similar threshold to where we were. Remember 1980 time frame at the end of the Carter administration? I mean, it's not exactly the same, but we were in a similar place. Where for the first time in my lifetime, I think in yours too, Americans thought that our best days were behind us. Right? Think about the economic situation that we were in, the high interest rates, and kind of the inflation that was going on, and we just sort of lost our, I don't know, our sense of hope and our sense of American exceptionalism. And we really, for the first time back then, we thought our best days are behind us. Think about what else we were dealing with. So we had a really, bad economic situation. We sort of lost that sense of American exceptionalism and hope. We had a serious philosophical and political divide in the world going on, right? Between freedom, democracy, and capitalism, and communism and socialism, right? So we had the Cold War going on, but it was really these two stark choices that were happening globally and how that was playing out. We had a bunch of Americans held hostage in Iran, and we were basically unable and unwilling. I mean, even with the Desert One rescue that failed, we just were, so we didn't even show we had military might, we didn't have diplomatic might. It was a time of just feeling, I don't know, I mean, I was young, but it was like this sort of nausea of like, we're America. Do you guys remember that feeling? I think we're at a very similar place that we now, if you ask people, a lot of people say now our best days are behind us, even though, Ronald Reagan came in and a lot of things changed in the 80s, but we didn't see that coming. We're at that place again where people think we're going to hand to the next generation a country that's worse off than we got it for the first time. There's a feeling of there's no hope for the future. How are we going to get out of this quagmire? We've got this gridlock, nobody's willing to lead, nobody's willing to do the nation's business, so we've got this sort of no hope thing going on. We don't have hostages in Iran, but we have a potential nuclear state sponsor of terror that's emerging in Iran that certainly could hold a lot of things hostage, to include the free world and our way of life. So we have a similar threat in that sense from the same place, ironically. And we do have a choice of two potential futures, but now it's actually internal. Now it's within America. Do we want to get on the road, to continue on the road to the European model of big government, of high taxes, of high debt, and that model that we're watching crumble before our eyes, ironically? It's still a sort of a model of choice for some people, but it's actually, we're watching it crumble before our eyes in Europe. Or do we want to sort of restore and return to the things that made America great, which is freedom, opportunity, personal responsibility, free market principles, and figuring out how to come together as Americans in order to make sure that America is great and we continue on that road. I think we're at a similar place. So, some of the dynamics going on in DC, I think represent that strong debate over two different models. And so in some places when you get there, that debate needs to happen and that rigor needs to come from the American people because we have a choice before us in that regard. But for crying out loud, I mean, nothing's getting done. And people of America and the communities of America are the ones who are suffering. We are coming up in December and January on a fiscal cliff. I don't know if you guys have been looking at it. We have the potential for the Bush tax cuts to expire, the payroll tax holiday to expire, and this thing called sequestration to kick in. Sequestration is the $500 billion of extra cuts that are going to automatically come out of the budget because the committee that came together after the debt ceiling was raised last summer couldn't come to a compromise, and so automatically they're going to kick in to include serious impacts to our national defense and our military if nothing gets done. I mean, that's autopilot. Autopilot we're going to see, we're going to drive off a cliff and go into a deep recession again if Congress doesn't do their job, which is make tough decisions, lead, show some moral courage, even if it means you're not going to get elected again. This is about the future of your country, about the future of your community. Sometimes you're going to make some tough choices, figure out how to solve the problems and get us going, so that you can bring certainty back there. You keep kicking the can so they can get through the next election, keep up with their sort of elite status, keep their medical plan while they impose a different one on other people. I mean, that was never what the founding fathers intended, right? I mean, that mindset is just so backwards. I mean, all I can say is, I'm applying for a job with y'all. I consider this a job interview to be one of 435 of 1/2 of 1/3 of our federal government. That can sound sort of depressing, right? Like, what could I possibly do, you know? But, I mean, the Constitution and the Founding Fathers set up a system to have that balance of powers between the branches, and to even within the legislative branch have the House, which is supposed to be the passion of the people every 2 years, the voice of the people, and have the Senate, which is supposed to be a little bit more longer-term stability. And I'm applying for that 2-year job to represent you. All I can say, I'm not going to promise you that I'm going to personally fix America by myself. I can only tell you I'm going to stand up for what's right. I'm going to stand up for this community. I'm going to do the right thing. I'm going to use Senator Kyle's example of being credible and knowledgeable and effective in understanding how to get things done, and actually having that credibility in order to be able to do the right thing. And you know, somebody's representing CD2, so I think it needs to be somebody who's got the energy, education, moral courage, and leadership to actually get something done. Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to get back.
May I interrupt for a second?
Yeah.
We're going to get a mic so everybody can hear your question.
Yeah.
Some of us can't hear us.
Sure. I would like to get back to your mention of taxes. Taxes, is this okay?
Yeah, that's better.
What is your idea about eliminating IRS with all its loopholes and substituting